Hello and welcome back to One Leg at a Time, the podcast about health, wellness, recovery, fun, and music, in which I, your host, Dr. Dean Anbar, interview other musicians and creatives about their process, their priorities, and the things that they do to achieve their goals. Today's interview is with Jason Goldstein, great keyboardist, multi-instrumentalist who plays with Scary Pockets. He plays with Family Groove Company, all around great guy. And I'd been looking forward to talking with him like this for a while. And we finally had a chance to sit down and do it. He and I have a lot of things in common. Remember to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. Enjoy this week's episode with Jason Goldstein.
Yeah, she tries to get me to chase her at all times, and I'm working, so
yeah,
it's not going to happen.
Anytime Sherlock wants my attention, I always feel so bad because he just has that face, that sad bulldog face.
Yeah, resting sad face.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I'll do anything for you. Like, just how can I help you?
Yeah. He's a good boy.
Have you met Sherlock before?
Once. He showed up at it was either at the San Fernando.
He showed up.
Yeah. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was out and he decided to roll by. Yeah, I used to take him to San Fernando a good amount, but I kind of stopped doing that when it just became, the household was kind of whittled down to just he and I, and it's just like, it was a lot to deal with watching him and also like trying to play a gig or whatever.
Having a dog is a lot of work. I mean, this is my first dog that I've had that wasn't like my family's dog.
Yeah.
And I totally didn't understand. Like if Lily is out of town and it's me and my dog, my life changes immensely.
Yeah.
Because I have to come home multiple times a day, just dog stuff.
I know.
Taking care of a child.
Being a single dog parent is a lot.
Yeah.
But that relationship, I mean, it's like, it's so, it's just so rewarding.
It's really important for your mental health too. Like if you're in a slump, that dog is not in a slump and needs like life keeps on moving for them. So you got to keep it going. Not
even that, but just like the regularity of like, we're walking every day.
Yeah.
We're staying on a schedule. Like I know for me, once I got the dog, it was just like, oh, I don't even have to think about this anymore. Like we're on a schedule now.
Right.
Yeah. And that consistency, as you know, working in the music biz is like
everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, and it gives you a sense of structure and it's worth it. With Sherlock, I've found that it's just like, all right, I just like, sometimes I have to get people to watch him, when I can't for whatever reason, but like, that's okay. He's along for the ride.
Right.
He gets it.
Yeah.
Someone's got to pay for that food.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I wish they knew that we're out having to make money for them.
I think he knows.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume I think that he knows.
Gracie's too young to understand at the moment. She'll
wisen up.
The way I personify her or have her speak, she's like very upset with me at all times. So
I'm kind of the same thing. Sherlock has this like resting, like, fuck this. Like, this sucks. I don't know. My like anthropomorphizing of how I think that he is in the world is very, he's kind of like one of those three old guys from the Muppets.
Yeah.
Who, just shit talk the whole time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's kind of like me and him and then whoever else.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. This is a beautiful studio.
Thank you.
Do you have a name for it?
Not yet. We painted it slightly blue, so there might be something in there regarding the color. But yeah, we've been here only a couple months, and it's nice. I got all my keyboards around, and it's good.
It's got a good vibe. Nice, spacious. Dog bone
in the middle.
Yeah.
Gracie the dog keeps stealing things, so she leaves her treats everywhere.
That's what they do. It's not so much stealing; it's just shifting.
Are you still sober?
Yeah.
Nice.
I just had 3 years.
Damn.
Yeah. What about you?
That's awesome. I'm 10.5 months right now.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
I remember when you initially had reached out to me about that.
Yeah. That was this time. I was like, I was pretty confident about the decision to do it. Everybody's asking like, how long are you going to do it for? And I tell them like, oh, I don't know, but I really know like I'm kind of done with all of it.
I mean, that's a beautiful thing. I think everybody who's curious about it is curious about it for different reasons. And I do not proselytize sobriety as a way of life for anybody because it's like, you don't need, it's just like anything.
Yeah.
You don't need to go to the gym. You don't need to run. You don't need to be like sober, like biblically sober.
Yeah.
but these are things that I need,
Yeah.
you know? And I remember when you had initially reached out to me about it, and you never struck me as somebody with a problem, but that's like such a nonsense thing. You know, I don't know, you know?
Yeah. I mean, my whole thing was I would be secretly high at all times. I would wake up early to hit the pen and then not tell anybody.
Yeah.
Or not tell my wife. And I was fine, but my reasons for stopping were like the amount of guilt I felt every time was like too immense. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was weird.
And that's a negative impact on your life.
Yeah. There's this whole thing like I want to be the best version of myself possible. Like I want to compose like a freaking symphony, and things like that. If I'm thinking at all about anything else, such as how I hid myself being high, like that's not going to work.
Yeah, it takes up a lot of mental space. I had tried to do it myself. I was really stubborn, you know, and I really didn't take anybody's like advice on it. I didn't want anybody to have to tell me because I think I was holding onto the reservation.
I remember, speaking of weed and drug use, but when I was like really having a great time with it, I would get lost for hours in some session.
Yeah.
And just me alone. And I would make really wild, fun music. And now sober, like this is the space where I allow myself to go kind of crazy on the computer. If I can. It's like my goal is to get in the flow and throw paint at the wall. Yeah.
Okay, out of curiosity, like how would you speak to the experience of being a creative person and removing drugs from the equation?
Man, that is a good question. It was really terrifying. I remember when I first stopped using, I was terrified of doing a lot of things that I didn't see coming. Like from running, I would love to run high, and eating. I would eat high. And so all these things, like we put a plate of food in front of me, it did not look very good. And I was just like, do I have to? Yeah. So with the music making, I stopped like producing music for a long time. And I was like, I don't really want to be near that computer because it's a trigger. I would immediately, like even now, I'll sometimes like reach to my left, like looking for a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a new experience. It's easier to remember things, so I don't have to write down chord progressions anymore, which is nice.
That's nice.
That's a beautiful thing. But it was really daunting and terrifying, and it's like dipping your feet in a cold plunge all of a sudden. So you just gotta get it happening.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have some thoughts, and you know, my own experience with it was that it was not a natural or easy transition. And there was almost about a year that I just like wasn't feeling creative in the least bit.
Yeah.
Couldn't really bring myself to write anything. Was kind of just like stuck in that like cyclical beating myself up, like nothing is good. I don't even really want to do this. And I think it's because the activity of practicing and playing and writing was so tied to being stoned, you know, that like removing that, it was just like they were too interconnected, you know. I felt like it just wasn't fun. It wasn't, you know, and like we were talking about before we started rolling, like when you do music full time, it's so easy to get burned out that it feels like work. Yeah. So like already I'm, you know, like you said, like I'm listening more to podcasts than I am to music. Right. Just not because I don't love music, you know, because I do, but like sometimes it's just like my brain has kind of had it up to here with notes. Like, I just need voices. You know, I need like two dummies talking about nothing. Yeah, no, I completely relate to that. It's interesting. You had me thinking about what kind of music I was letting myself make when I was first getting back into it. Yeah. And how I was just criticizing everything. Nothing got finished. All of these, I would start so many ideas and be like, okay, I'm going to make a Luther Vandross song. Sure. And I would be like, well, this is garbage. Yeah. Everything was terrible. And only recently am I letting myself like weird music and like making weird music. Yeah. Like sometimes I need to listen to really strange like bubblegum techno pop, and sometimes I need to listen to
just like overtone harmonic, weird avant-garde compositions, like or ensembles playing together.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a different level and different style of creativity that I crave now.
Well, I think that everything shifts when you don't, when drugs aren't part of the equation anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like you aren't able to be creative. It's that it just takes a minute and you find a new kind of a groove.
Yeah.
You know,
Instead of enjoying like a dubstep drop or like a reggae beat, which is stereotypical high fun music, I instead like listening to like overtones clash or watching like, you know, just people do slightly genius things that take a lot of premeditated composition. Like I really appreciate composition now.
Yeah. I mean, I still love the jams.
Yeah, jams are good.
You know,
man.
But yeah,
there's something. That's why playing live really kept. If I was only producing, which I don't do at all, but if I was only producing, I would not have made it, or I probably. But the fact that people hire me to play live and I get to play live with my friends, you get into the flow state, and I consider it meditating. It's definitely conversing, and it's pretty distracting. It's not the type of meditating where you're shooing away thoughts the whole time, but you're definitely busy and in the flow and having a great time. If you can combine fitness while zoning out, then that's a really great place to be.
Well, that's what hooked me into running.
Yeah,
it was totally by accident.
Yeah.
Are you still doing? Because I remember maybe it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You were running. You had run a few marathons.
Yeah, I've done 4 marathons, and these days I run for like 30 minutes every day, but just for some fat burning fun.
Yeah.
Not for any distance. Before it was all about like, let's make it to 26 miles and let's do the LA Marathon.
Yeah.
That was around the same time I did. Have you ever heard of Vipassana? Vipassana is what it's called.
That does sound familiar.
It's a 10-day meditation retreat. So I was totally all meditating, but Vipassana is a style of Buddhist meditation that you learn over these 10 days. And essentially you are sitting there, like day 1 is about learning how to breathe through your nostrils, or about feeling the air moving in and out.
Okay.
And in this meditation retreat, you take a vow of noble silence where you're not allowed to make eye contact. There's no reading or writing or talking. It's like you and you alone, and learning about like what your thoughts are doing and all of that. But that, and the marathons to me were kind of a big, like pivotal, let's work on understanding myself moment.
Yeah.
They kind of go hand in hand. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I strongly suggest that it's free. It's all over the world. You can go to a country and find a program, and it's vegan and it's delicious food. And
are you vegan?
Right now I don't eat animal stuff. I have whey protein powder.
Oh, how could you?
I know. I still feel guilty about it, but no, I don't eat like eggs or milk or meat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So functionally,
everything. Yeah.
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 So I was raised in a vegetarian home.
When did you start eating meat?
Eating meat initially was an act of rebellion for me.
Right.
You know, the first time I had like a fried chicken sandwich, it's just like, screw you, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, that's funny.
And it was delicious, you know, and I always was like, food was my first drug, you know, and that was...
Man, that's so true for me as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I grew up pretty heavy, like until like 9th or 10th grade.
My whole life I was heavy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a sweet tooth, and that was always like my thing. I can trace my like addict brain like so directly back to my intense sugar consumption. And my house was really restrictive growing up. But when I was out of the house, when I was unleashed on the world, my, you know, friends, families, unsuspecting pantries, and like the 7-Eleven down the street, you know, with like whatever money I could scrounge together, and just like, you know, would make myself I would just like stuff myself with as much as I could.
Yeah.
when meat started to come into the equation, me and my friends, once we got our driver's licenses, would like drive to Wendy's multiple times in a night.
Oh my God.
You know, like that was just kind of, that
Ridiculous.
was really the first thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The last hamburger I had was an In-N-Out, and it was a 6x6. And I was like, I love the bulk eating, and also that I consider that addictive behavior a little bit.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it was an epic last burger.
So how long have you been, I'm going to call you vegan.
Yeah, let's go for it. I mean, I really intend to be. I'm only trying to meet these macros for this nutritional gym thing I'm doing. So they want me to get a certain amount of protein per pound.
Sure.
And keep it under a certain amount of calories.
I'll say this. From an ethical standpoint, it's so obvious. Like, factory farming is the worst thing for the planet. It's the worst thing for the animals. I mean, there's really zero justification for that. Now, that said, when I was going through my own like food rehabilitation, figuring out how to eat in a way that was satisfying, that was low calorie, because before I started doing that a couple of years ago, I had no concept of calories. I was just eating anything that I felt like.
Yeah.
I didn't really get, like, both my parents did their best, and food is like, and eating clean is healthy to both of them, or sorry, is important to both of them. But neither of them are what I would call like healthy role models in that sense. My dad is a raw food vegan, essentially, which like, that's does
that mean like no cooking or no oils?
He'll cook like a vegetable, but no oil, no salt even. Like, he's very, very, very selective about what he eats.
Wow.
And like, which is great for him, but for 99.9% of people, myself included, it's just not a sustainable model.
No.
You know? And then my mother used to run like 20 miles every morning on the treadmill before we would go to school. Like, she had this other thing where it was just like exercise was super important to her. But again, it was taken to such an extreme that it was just like, you know, like you were talking about before with the long distance running, like I love running, but I've kind of had to dial it back, not because I don't love it, but because I was kind of having some physical issues as a result of it. And also because I just wasn't really doing anything else. You know?
Yeah, you can spend all your time running.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people have different reasons to do it too. I initially started running for weight loss, or mostly because, I mean, I grew up relatively, first I had that crazy easy eating disorder where I put on weight, and then I lost all of it with like anorexia, essentially. I remember in high school, it came off real quick.
Okay.
And then running was just like a constant pursuit of the six pack, or like to make myself look good in the mirror, which never happened. Like, even if I ever looked good, it was just like...
No, I suffer from that same body dysmorphic.
Yeah, lots of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. And that's kind of its own... So I think that the real challenge of it is to just be happy and not rely on something like that as a metric for your value.
Yeah. That being said, running is really great too. I wasn't only doing it to...
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. It's more... It's
for all
therapy.
the reasons we talked about.
Yeah. Well, I think that is ultimately like the kind of final form of like overall functional fitness is to realize that like weight is determined by what you put into your body, not what you do, you know.
That's true.
And that's like, it's a really unhealthy habit to start to go, well, if I eat this piece of cake, I'll run it off.
Yeah.
You know, and start to treat food in like a contingency, you know, kind of way like that, where it's like, well, if I do this, then I can do that. And then, well, you know, like, that's addict thinking actually is what it is.
I'm very familiar with that thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never would have considered you to be somebody heavy because I've only ever known you as a skinny person.
Yeah. I've made sure of that.
So who are you playing with these days?
These days I am playing, there's a lot of fun music happening. Right now, I'm kind of focused on my band, Family Company.
Yeah. Which looks awesome.
It's very fun. There's lots of good music unreleased. And yeah, we kind of blew up on social media recently. Yeah. Which was quite the experience. So I've been doing that. We record records a lot. And we're mostly a recording project, but we're working on getting a tour thing together. Yeah. And we're also navigating all of these record labels and like distributors reaching out to us They're kind of like sharky behavior, like not great people.
Okay.
No offense to any of them, but yeah, it's one of those things where you have to like, oh, this is this side of the music industry that we've been warned about this whole time.
Sure.
So there's that. I also I mostly I've been playing with Casey Abrams. He's a great singing upright bassist.
Yeah.
And Scary Pockets too. Getting to play with them. I also have a residency where I sing and play like jazz or whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I've never heard you sing.
Oh yeah, I sing. These days I sing about as much as I play.
Wow,
it's pretty great.
Yeah,
yeah, that was a big change I wanted to make, which is just get over the fear. I grew up singing, and then I quit when my parents got separated, and when I started smoking, and then I just thought singing was dumb, and all of that, and then growing up, I slowly became the musical director at this church, and it was my job to sing. And this church has been a very secret group of people that I never tell anyone about, and they all hear me sing every weekend. And I see it change them, and I'm like, I should just do this for everybody. There's no difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been good.
One of the things that I've been interested in, and in all of the conversations that I'm having, is just like, I'm talking to people and they're telling me about, like, consistently across the board, everyone has said, I set goals, and they're very deliberate about what they want and organized in a way that I am not,
right.
And so I'm trying to be better about it because it's inspiring, and like getting to have these conversations with people who are my friends and also really incredible at their, crafts.
Yeah.
And, so this opportunity that I have now to like sit down and talk to people this way has been really, really rewarding.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to take as much from it as possible and like be a lot more deliberate about like, okay, this is the goal, stick to it. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having goals is really important.
Yeah.
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 With man, I wish I could say the same. Like the word, like, goals and I are we get in fights a lot. Like there's parts of my life where I'm really good about having goals. Like piano homework, I'm really good. I have a list of things that I'm working on, and it's like an assignment for the week that I give myself, or just an assignment, and to take it through all 12 keys until I'm not thinking about it.
Uh-huh.
That sort of goal is great. When it comes to like finishing songs and production, I feel like I am underneath a waterfall getting pounded by like, I feel like it's my job to clean up the huge mess I've made with all these unfinished songs. So but my ultimate goal, just period, musically, is to play the Hollywood Bowl.
Okay. And
everything I do is kind of like tinted by making decisions that'll lead me there.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
See, that it'll happen.
It's happened for friends, for all my friends, and essentially they've gotten random calls.
Yeah.
And it just happens.
It's just interesting to hear you say that, because this is what I think when I hear you say it. It is going to happen for you. And then the question is, then what? You know?
Yeah. Think about that.
And I think hearing you talk about the challenge of going through the unfinished stuff that you have, the detritus of your hard drive that we all have.
Yeah.
Versus the task of taking new music through all 12 keys. That's familiar. Mm-hmm. It's work, but like, how to do it.
Yeah.
And you've gone through that process enough that like you can look forward to finishing that challenge, because you can essentially know how long it'll take, and it'll occupy you for this amount of time. And it is going to challenge you, but it's not going to challenge you in that kind of like cosmically unknown way of going through and getting into the other stuff.
Yeah, I know exactly what's coming with that stuff.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, I can use it without thinking about it. But if I'm finishing a song, there's so much that I'm considering as far as what will people think.
Yeah.
What does this genre of music say about me, and is this artist good?
Yeah.
Am I good? It's all these things where if I wasn't thinking about any of that, it would be done already.
But I don't know if there's a way to ever not think about that. But I do know, and I'm not saying that I am like this, but I'm saying that I do know that like none of those questions matter.
Yeah.
And that it's all just like who cares?
Yeah.
You just do it.
Yeah, you can either spend your life saying things like that and asking questions, or you just do it.
Right.
And then either way, you'll just die at the end.
Yeah. The thesis of this podcast, right, which is the One Leg at a Time podcast. This is a podcast about health and wellness and fun and recovery. And, I talk to other musicians about what they do to achieve their goals and accomplish their dreams.
Yeah. Sounds great.
I thought so. But I think that the risk of just of a free-form conversation is that doesn't always come across. And so what I thought I would do was write down some questions to just get into it.
Wise.
So I wrote 50 questions.
Great.
And they are to varying degrees of intensity, so it's kind of just you pick a card and see what happens.
Cool.
I wanted them to be legs.
Yeah.
As you can see, they're feet because they don't make legs cards. So I'm going to have to commission that or just have them made somewhere.
Yeah.
So go ahead, pick a foot.
See.
Any foot.
This dark blue one is striking my fancy.
Go nuts.
Size 10.
Let's find out.
What was the last thing you ate? That's a great question. What was the last thing I ate? Embarrassingly, it was tofu noodles.
What's embarrassing about that?
What's embarrassing is that they were bad, first of all, and that they exist. And what's most embarrassing is I drove to a Chinese market in search of these tofu sheets, flat sheets.
Were you doing the tofu because you want the high protein?
Yeah, tofu. Okay. I'm eating a lot of tofu because I'm working out. And I'm totally burnt out on my taco seasoning tofu cubes.
Yeah.
Just like tofu meat replacement stuff.
It takes a lot to get me burned out on a food, but once I do, I kind of never want to see it again.
Yeah, that hit me. I hit the wall, and I never thought it would happen. But it happened this week. And then I Googled tofu alternatives. It's a shape. It's a ambiguous blob.
Yeah.
Found out it comes in sheets and you can slice it into pasta noodles.
Okay.
And then I was in the aisle in this Chinese grocery store, and they had pre-cut pasta noodles.
Mm-hmm.
Just made it. It tasted like a rubber chicken. It was brutal.
Well, at least it's not a real chicken.
Yeah. So I had that and some broccoli to feel full.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, not bad. And so you were telling me earlier that you're doing this currently on a cut, but you were bulking. And then you started to tell me this, but was it that you're, well, what was the gym that you're part of?
It's called Moses Fitness. Shout out Moses Fitness.
Hey. Shalom.
It's essentially, it aligned with me going sober, and I've had a pretty bad relationship with food for my entire life. It'd be the thing where you eat a lot one day and then kind of skip eating the other days.
Yeah.
And trying to stay skinny all throughout. And instead, I realized I was lifting my new roads, and I was like, I'm going to gig with this thing. Mm-hmm. And then I put it in the car. I was like, ouch, that was really heavy.
Yeah.
And I was like, what if this wasn't heavy? What if instead of, starving myself half the time, if instead I built muscle like a big boy and became an adult?
Yeah.
So I got an Instagram ad, and uncharacteristically, I clicked on it. And then they called me 30 times, and I gave in.
Yeah.
I went there, they AI'd my body. And then I was like, this looks good. I'm super competitive. I can do this.
See, that's cool. I want somebody to AI my body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it got me on this whole health kick. And now I'm up I'm there at 5:30 in the morning from 5:30 to 7, get it done before my day. And you feel really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
This is a great question.
Oh, I'm glad.
I'm going to check out another one.
Pick another one, yeah.
I'm going to put that on the ground.
All right.
Pink. Yes. Are these stickers?
Yeah, they're stickers.
Okay, cool. When did you first learn an instrument? That's a good question. There's footage of me reaching for the piano when I was 1 and 2.
Okay.
And then I started playing 2.5, 3. Music runs in my family, so I was always just messing around on the piano. And then I don't know how old I was when I first started taking lessons, but it was as early as possible.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of fond memories of my dad playing piano. My uncle who is Bobby Caldwell. He was playing piano in my living room, and that was a very core memory.
Your uncle is Bobby Caldwell?
Yeah, he is. That's his bass, the black one right there. And
wow.
He passed away recently. I got him tattooed. That's his song right there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, those memories are pretty crucial for me.
Yeah. That's core.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I had no idea. Yeah. So was it always piano was like your calling?
No, I mean, that's what I was doing first. And then one day I saw someone that was very cool playing a guitar. And I was like, I want to learn how to play campfire guitar. Just being able to play whatever that takes.
I mean, guitar is the coolest instrument.
It's very cool. Yeah. It's much cooler than the keytar. I
was just gonna say, you guys try with that keytar. Put it down.
Yeah, it's insane. I remember learning Carry On My Wayward Son on the guitar, and then at a certain point, I was like, oh look, I'm on the middle of the neck. This is great. What's a bar chord? Let's just take it away.
Yeah.
And then that led to bass, and now these days I'm playing, I love learning new instruments. I finally picked up the saxophone.
I'm seeing trumpet mutes and
totally.
Studio, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I play a whole bunch of things. I love the horns are super stress relief for me. If I've got, it's so great. The breathing.
Yeah. I guess it would be.
Yeah, trumpet changed my life. It really, when you play piano, you can play piano pretty mindlessly and just throw your hands down.
Yeah.
And you can accidentally play 10 notes at every moment.
But I think that's one of the reasons why it's a good instrument to start, is because you don't literally need to challenge yourself physically to play piano in that way.
Totally, yeah.
A guitar hurts when you start playing guitar.
Yeah.
You have to really want to make that sound happen.
It's true. Trumpet's similar to the guitar in that way.
I remember trying to play a trumpet. It's awful.
Well, after you can make the noise, after you can make the actual sound, then the idea of improvising on trumpet or playing a solo over a standard, all of a sudden you're like, why am I trying to arpeggiate chords? There's all these philosophical questions that come up because none of the lines sound good. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, has my piano playing been crap this entire time? Have I been just playing what I think is the right thing instead of listening and feeling?
It is interesting because when you transcribe a great trumpet solo, there's some weird stuff in there.
There is a lot of weird stuff in there, but I never realized how intentional it was. For them, it's the most intentional. You have to you have to name the note, you have to buzz the note, and then you have to also play the correct fingering for it. There's multiple decisions that go into just making the note happen.
So you're really singing.
Yeah, you're singing. You're not with your vocal cords, but you have to buzz
you're creating a melody that comes from some combination of your head and your heart, rather than just wiggling your fingers around. Unless
you're Wynton Marsalis, or of course any professional trumpet player, but someone that plays all day every day, the ability to go choosing random notes isn't really an option. You have to be pretty intentional about what you're playing. Yeah. That's a great question.
Good. Let's keep
These
going.
These are good. Do the colors mean anything?
Nope.
Or are they just okay? Here's brown.
The old brown shoe.
How do you take your coffee? Black. I take my coffee black.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Black coffee is really delicious. Occasionally I'll have it with oat milk, but not these days because of the that's unnecessary calories right now.
I get the calorie thing.
Yeah.
I don't like oat milk. I don't like any creamer if it's a non-dairy creamer.
Oh.
I'm gonna die on that hill.
That's fine. Maybe you should change your mindset about it. It's not really cream. The whole it's milk. I don't think it's milk. I think it's water and oats.
Yeah, but it doesn't do anything. To me, it just makes coffee taste worse. But so does sugar. Yes. I'm it's not like I'm a purist. It's not, and I'm not a coffee snob.
Yeah.
But I just like coffee to be black and bitter and kind of kick my ass a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. It's a slightly masochistic energizer boost.
Yeah.
that being said, I bought a very fancy coffee maker recently.
What'd you get?
A drip coffee maker. It's a OXO 9-cup maker. And it's one of those...
Is that one of those like chemistry set looking kind of ones?
It is.
Cool.
Yeah. And you get to watch the water go up and over.
Yeah. So you got a little Breaking Bad action in the kitchen. Yeah.
I love obsessing over like shopping for products and doing extensive research. And that was one of those things where you research it for approximately 5 hours.
Gee, I couldn't have put that together. What an interesting thing that you mentioned about yourself.
Yeah, that's that more addict behavior. But like, you research it, then you make the purchase and never, ever, ever think about it again.
Yeah.
And
maybe for you, I make the purchase and then I keep looking at whatever the thing may be.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Black
That's
coffee.
great.
I'll know for when we go out on our coffee date.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Yeah.
How about gray?
Gray.
Interesting. A gray foot sticker, for the record. What is the most beneficial tool you've adopted for personal growth?
Finally got one of the good ones.
The most beneficial tool you've adopted for personal growth. First, like a tangible thing would be the I Am Sober app. That's just like a little thing. It's not a big conversation, but as far as a thing that's helped me currently, it's to know that that's ticking. And
I have that app, and I know that it is keeping track of my time. I guess. I have a question for you. Do you go to meetings or anything like that, or is that?
I don't. I went to like one or two in the beginning.
Yeah,
but they're not for me. There's too much pressure, and I was also forced to go when I was younger from my parents.
Okay,
and it wasn't good. I was like, this is not going to work with me because I don't want like to know that like when you first get there. They're like, great, you're going to meet a sponsor who's going to help you through all these 12 steps. And really, you're like, well, I was just going to quit for a week. Sort of thing.
Right. There's a lot of positives to 12-step recovery. There's a lot of people who end up in that door for various reasons that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things about it that are desperately in need of revision, I think, in their approach.
I never felt like fully aligned with them. In fact, I felt like they were all like heroin addicts that really needed to be there, where they were just like actively fighting an urge to use. And for me, I was like always so stubborn and so kind of like diabolical genius level about like, I'm probably going to use later, like no matter what.
Oh, I was the same way.
Yeah. And then one day something clicked where I was like, oh yeah, I've tried to quit, or this is like my 4th time stopping. And then I was still using at the time, and it was like, I was heading up for my 5th time. And I was like, I'm going to give myself like 2 months and go as hard as possible for these 2 months. And then I'm going to stop because I've wanted to stop in the past. And clearly I'm not using it like other people. It's like all my friends would pass joints around at parties and stuff. And like the fact that I wasn't like comfortable doing that with them and I'd rather do it alone, it's just not normal. And I can't really do it like other people.
What I know now that it took a long time for me to figure out was that like when I do start, like I rampage. There's no stopping. I will just consume until I die.
Right.
So I can't start.
Yeah.
Now
I wasn't like that, for the record.
No, I'm not saying that you were.
No. It's just interesting. You might have been one of those heroin addicts that I was referencing.
Well, but see, now this is why I brought that up, is because at a certain point I was just like, but I don't want to have to be tethered to these meetings, because if I don't, my whole life is going to fall apart.
Right.
That's not the kind of life that I want for myself either.
Yeah.
There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to go on a tour or to go to a gig that's at a bar or whatever. And like, I know the difference between somewhere that I should be and shouldn't be,
right.
But I was just like really kind of really committed to like, I just want to be able to live my life the way that I want to, Now, it also just so happens to be that I get a lot out of talking to other people who are in recovery,
Yeah, totally.
But that's also not like the only thing. It's such a mixed bag of things, you know? And again, and I totally get the 12-step recovery is not for everyone. And I wouldn't say that it is. There are things about it that have helped me. There are things about it that bug the shit out of me.
For me, the pressure was too much, so much that like out of simple rebellion, I'd probably like not last very long.
I mean, that's fine. And ultimately, you know, part of like maturing and growing up is realizing if something isn't working, you know, don't quit, just do something else. You know,
like that was in the beginning. Today, I think I would benefit from talking to people there, and I would love to hear the stories, and I would love to help others.
Yeah, no, but that's good. So the I Am Sober app has been helpful for you.
Yeah, that's been a nice, as far as physical tools go. Like emotional tools and spiritual tools, things like that. I mean, honestly, I can only really think of physical tools, right? Because it's all tied together. But exercise, has been a really important part for my growth. Because if I'm doing, it's taught me that if I am working hard doing something, then it transfers over to everything else in my life. It's like walking the dog on schedule. If you do that, other things will just happen because they're supposed to happen. And if you're pushing yourself as hard as you can, lifting a weight, then as silly as that is, you will work really hard helping someone with something during the day or finishing a composition because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And you have that sense of accomplishment. Like, I did this.
Yeah.
You know, like Brent, what's next?
Yeah. And me, who would be sitting in an AA meeting early on, hearing myself say that, I would be pissed. And like, I would be like, what a freaking idiot to say something like that. But it's so true. And you got to trick yourself in ways like that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it kind of all stems from that. And I think because I came into being somebody who exercises, I was kind of nursing myself back to health. Like, you know, at first it was half an hour on the elliptical machine.
Yeah, totally.
And then I would do like an hour and a half on the elliptical machine. Because I was trying to lose some weight, but I was also like finding myself feeling better every time that I went. I watched every Marvel movie in sequential order on an elliptical machine.
I've actually done a very similar thing.
What was it?
I mean, I've hit all the Marvel movies. I usually watch like episodes of TV shows, just like shows in general. But that's if I'm at LA Fitness and training for the marathon. Like the marathon training is different. These days, if I get some cardio time, I actually just like to count, and I count.
Do you listen to anything, or you're just counting?
No, I'm just counting.
Wow.
Or I think about stuff, but
that's some next level mind game.
Yeah, you take 4 steps and you say 1, and then you take another 4 and it's 2, and you count up to 100 and back down.
Wow.
Or stuff like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I listen to Fish when I run.
Similar. Yeah, it's a very similar thing.
I mean, I can just get lost in that. You know?
Yeah. It's the whole. It's related. I think I picked it up during Vipassana, that meditation retreat thing.
Yeah,
where you are trying so hard to focus on one thing, like your nose.
Yeah.
And when you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, you make it through that, then you double the amount of steps per number.
Okay.
So it's like 1, 2, and then eventually you get to like 1, 2, and by then if it's really a challenge because you just lose, like you start thinking about other things, and it's like
right.
Yeah,
but you're not thinking about running.
No,
that's I think the interesting thing, and definitely one of the big turning points for me as a runner was realizing I'm not thinking about running.
Yeah.
You know?
And it feels really good when you realize that.
Oh, it's the best.
You're like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Hey, you want to do one more?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
All right. You can do as many as you want. This is great.
Let's go yellow.
All right. I know. That one was kind of like
hello.
Staring you right in the face.
Do you get nervous to perform in bed? Do I get nervous to perform?
You know, they have pills for that. Sponsor.
I get nervous to perform if I didn't do my homework. That's kind of the big thing. I've played some humongous shows. Like the biggest show I ever played was like 40,000 people, and I was not nervous because it was so big that I couldn't even fathom. Like seeing the front row is just like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, it's an inconceivable amount of people.
Yeah.
I've done not a ton, but like there was one time in particular I can think of. I did like a baseball stadium, and it's not real.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, this is a painting. I'll just play to this painting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but I do get nervous. Well, when I'm not ready, and I never like to get ready either. So I'm kind of just like always living on it. But if I'm singing for a group of people that I know, I remember a pretty solid time when I was nervous was after my wedding, the evening of my wedding. We had a nice campfire. Everybody's a musician.
Yeah.
And someone handed me the guitar, and I'm not great at guitar. And then B, they were like, sing us a song. And I was like, fuck. And I was like, I was already pretty drunk. And I was like, this is a great idea. And all I remember is like stressfully looking at the neck as a defense mechanism, so I didn't have to look up at anybody.
Sure.
And then feeling myself go into my soft singing voice, where I'm like, kind of like singing soft because it's cool.
Yeah.
And that's like not me. So I've gotten nervous, but a lot of it, you'll find me most nervous when I'm holding an acoustic guitar and singing a song.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is something to look at. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get what you're saying. I think one of the things that will make me more nervous is playing for people who I really look up to.
Oh my God.
You know, like playing at a place like the Baked Potato.
Yeah.
Where it's not a big place, but like the chances are a lot of the people who are in there are very accomplished at their instrument. And then I'll have the thought of like, who the hell am I even to be on this stage?
Totally.
You know, that will get me nervous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's best not to know who you're playing for. That's why that church gig was always really important. It got me the one where I would not really even tell anybody what church I was playing at. Mm-hmm. It was this really great group of people in Granada Hills, and I didn't know any of them. And I kind of refused to learn their names actually for a long time because it was just...
I just forget people's names.
I know, I forget. I now know them. But at the time, it was just about repetition, and like it got me in the mindset where you press play on the record and then you just play a song like it's a record. Yeah. Without being nervous because I didn't know anybody. Mm-hmm. But when you were saying that, I was thinking last time I got nervous was when I performed for a bunch of my students. And that was like, damn, I should not be this nervous. Like they're looking to me to not be nervous right now.
It's so crazy though, right? Like sometimes these things just like worm their way into your brain. Yeah. And it's like impossible to get rid of them. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I mean, that could be a whole focus in and of itself is like, how do you... I remember one time I was listening, or I was at this masterclass that Pat Metheny was doing, and he was talking about his whole daily routine on a show day. And it was crazy. He was like, I get up, I don't speak to anybody for like 8 hours before I play. Whoa. I run for like an hour, you know, at this specific time before I play. I won't eat for so many hours before I play because I know that if I have food in me, like I'm not going to... And he was like, and the whole thing, and the reason why I'm so particular about this is because I know if I go through these steps and I'm very consistent about it, I'll play at my best. Mm-hmm. And he was like, and I owe it to my audience because these people come, they spend their money, you know, they're taking the time, and like, it's not easy for them to come to the show. So I owe it to them to be at my best every single night. And he's talking about all these things. He's like, but it's because I don't ever want to have a bad show. Right. And I don't want he's like, I don't want circumstances to ever be the reason why I had a bad show. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I thought that was pretty interesting, actually. Yeah. And then I proceeded to do drugs for 10 years. Yeah. But, it's a good process. Yeah. But I do think about that now. And like when I'm on the road, I'm much more dialed in actually than I am when I'm home. Yeah. Because I think there's a control element to it where so much of my life is nuts and like chaotic. Yeah. That like, all right, it just makes me double down on the things that I know are important to me. Like, I don't know. I mean, we've been going for a while. I figured. It's been a good talk. Honestly, longer than I thought. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. You'll have to cut good? Some. I'm good. Oh, we're going to have to cut a lot. Yeah. But okay. Yeah, well, that was fun. Dude. Thanks for having me. Do you do like a sign off or anything? Yeah. You have to look in the camera and say, I put my pants on one leg at a time. I put my pants on one leg at a time. You heard it here first, folks. Thanks for tuning in.
Nice.
Good job.
One leg at a time. 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 You put your pants on one leg at a time. One leg at a time. One leg. Put your pants on one leg at a time.